Welcome to today's video presentation for Unit 3, Day 4. Last week we spent time learning about some various topics, give you an idea of what your research paper will be about. This week, hopefully you're all coming to class with a topic in mind, a narrow topic in mind, and we're going to actually start researching on your topic. So the title of today's lesson is called Conducting a Literature Review, which is that process. For your academic notes, we're going to learn what is an annotated bibliography. This will be the first paper that is due for this unit, and it's weighted not as much as your final research paper, but about 75% of it. So it's important that you learn how to research correctly in one of the major skills of English 1010. And that's what we call an annotated bibliography. So according to the rubric, you are to find at least 8 sources on your narrowed topic. 6 of them have to come from scholarly databases, 2 from other credible sources that we'll talk about in a few minutes. For each of them, you will create an annotated bibliography, which is a citation, a summary of the source, a short analysis, and evaluation of the source. And so all of those are put together into one annotated bibliography entry. So just as some background information, again, hopefully you're recording this in your academic notes for the assignments. There are 2 types of annotated bibliography. The first one is just descriptive summaries, where you cite the source and you tell what's in the source, and writing like summary paragraphs that we have learned already this semester. The second one is, in addition to the summary, it's more of adding more of critical thought or analysis along with how you see yourself using that source in your paper. So we're going to do the latter of the 2. So here is your assignment for your first major paper for Unit 3, and there is a rubric guide in your list of extra handouts. And so it asks you again to find 8 research-based sources. 6 will be scholarly, 1 will be a non-database academic source, and we'll talk about those when we get to slide 9. And then 1 is a non-internet academic source. So if you look at how you will be graded, you will need to have a correct citation done in MLA 9.0 for each source, and then a 200-word evaluation, which includes 4 or 5 sentences where you summarize the article, 2 or 3 sentences about the usefulness of the article, and 1 or 2 sentences how you see yourself using it. So each of those will be put together into one annotated bibliography, and you actually do this now 8 times. So here's an example of one where I color coordinated. First of all, put the citation in MLA at the top, and then I summarized the source in black, and then gave an analysis, critical analysis of the source in red, and then explained how I would actually use that source in an upcoming paper, and I did that in blue. So that's what your annotated bibliography is like. For the majority of class today, we'll be going to the lab, and you will actually start looking for sources. But before we do that, to get you ready for that, we want to make sure that you all have a topic in mind for your essay. And so what you are going to do is type me a memo. And a memo is a short business correspondence, and I have a copy of what a memo looks like in your resources for today. So in the memo, in the first paragraph, you're going to talk about what your general topic is and how you narrowed it down. And then the third or second paragraph of the memo, you're going to talk about how your topic, you see it working for problem solution, and what your essential question is. Remember, we talked about essential questions in our last lesson. So look at that memo. You will set yours up exactly the same way in formatting, and you will type up this 2-paragraph memo to print it and give to me so that I know what you're researching, so I can help you before you get too far into the research process. So hopefully those will be coming in during class so that I can give feedback to everybody before class ends today. I talked about how 6 of your sources need to come from scholarly journals, which means when you get into the UEN library website, you're going to have to mark scholarly journals only. So those are called Tier 1 resources, and those are the best sources. Why? Because they are based on research and rigorous analysis. They will have strong claims, and you find them in database like EBSCO. A Tier 2, these are considered good sources too, but not as scholarly as, of course, a Tier 1. These are more of reports and articles, and even books, and they are credible non-academic sources. You can see there's research involved, and but they are not scientific. So sometimes you will find this type of information on websites, like if you're doing a research paper relating to something about Major League Baseball. Of course, the Major League Baseball site would be a good source, but it's considered a Tier 2 source. So even though the people know what they're talking about, there is a slant on it, or people that are running the organization are also putting the information out there. Tier 3, this is information that is informative, but it is written by non-experts in the fields. So any magazine articles, newspaper articles, those would be considered Tier 3. They work really well for high school research papers, but not for college. And then finally, a Tier 4 article is one that is agenda driven. In other words, the person who there's a high opinion or slant to the author or the way the information is printed. Kind of like when I had you get into groups with an article and you had to decide how credible the source was and evaluate it. So you want to avoid those in research papers. So to illustrate that, I have an example here. This is a book that was published in 2008, and the book is entitled 2008 Political Year of the Women Election, A Critical Examination. And there's an article in it that's entitled The Brett Kavanaugh Case, The Importance of Language. So in class, I'm asking them whether or not they think this is a good source. And because this is a video and I only have a short amount of time, I'm just going to tell you that it's definitely not a Tier 1. So even though it's timely, it has a credible author behind it, and seems like there is a clear, unbiased approach to the article. You'll notice that all the references for this essay is newspaper articles. So the research that the writer just used people that were not experts in language and jurisdiction language, stuff like that. So it isn't the best of sources to use. For you guys then, you will be using databases from these 3 websites. The Utah Online Library, on this site I have this year's username and password. And then you can also use the Salt Lake City or Salt Lake Community College Library with your username from SLIC. And you can also use the JSTOR website database, and there is the username and password for that one. So when you get to the library or to our lab today in class, if you're not with us, you'll just do this at home. You're going to start out by typing that memo, covering what your essentially question is. And remember, this is from slide number 8. And then from there, you're going to start finding sources, printing the sources, and then writing annotated sources or bibliographies on them. So your assignment today or on Tuesday and Thursday, or this whole week, is to find 8 sources and then put together the annotated bibliography. One thing, when your final annotated bibliography comes in, hopefully I'll remind you again, it is in alphabetical order. And I think there's a full annotated bibliography in your resource booklet that you can see of how it's supposed to look and typed. So you will have 2 class periods to work on your literature review. Notice that I am still giving you time to work on this assignment beyond next week, before the final due date, but we are actually learning how to start your research paper the following week, since I want to get that done or move on with that one. So the class periods in class today and Thursday will be for your annotated bibliography time in class. Any other time that you need to complete the assignment, you will need to do that on your own. And remember, it is due on November 24th. So that's our lesson today. Good luck.